Osgood. Kemba, and it's carrying away Osgood. 1-0. And only players like Osgood.
And now with Chelsea on the attack, this is Osgood. Left foot shot, what a goal!
The Osgood King, that's what they called him. But they never talk about the violence he survived. He wasn't just kicked, he was hunted. There were players he never forgave. Not because they played hard, but because they crossed a line. And they got away with it. He never said their names in public, but he carried them in his mind like flags. A reminder, a warning, proof that even kings bleed. He walked with class, but behind the charm was a quiet fire. He remembered who snapped his bones, who swung at him when the ref looked away, who smiled while leaving him on the floor. And he never forgot, not once. He didn't weep, he didn't whine. He played through the pain and made them regret not finishing the job, because every time he stood back up, he made them watch him score. Peter Osgood never begged for fairness. He punished with elegance and ruled through revenge. That's why they feared him. That's why he mattered. Subscribe if you believe elegance means nothing without fire. It was Emlyn Hughes, the man who cracked the crown before it was ever worn. October 1966, League Cup. Peter Osgood, young, electric, unstoppable, went into a challenge. And Hughes met him with everything. There was no warning, no build-up, just a clash of legs, and a silence that dropped the stadium cold. Osgood reached down, felt it through the sock, the lip of the bone. He said it himself. Our legs crunched together. Mine broke just above the ankle. No screaming, no theatrics, just pain. And the beginning of everything else. That tackle changed him. The spring in his leap, gone. The explosion in his stride, taken. But what stayed? The fire and the memory. Osgood never said Hughes's name in anger, but he never forgave it either. He held it. Deep, quiet, permanent. Because after that day, Peter Osgood didn't play with flair alone. He played with teeth. He no longer danced past defenders. He stepped through them. The elegance remained. But now it was loaded with spite. That moment made him slower, heavier, but it also made him lethal. Emlyn Hughes never saw the full damage, but Osgood carried it for the rest of his life. They didn't mark him, they hunted him. Every time Peter Osgood faced Leeds United, it wasn't about tactics, it was about pain. Norman Hunter came in with boots sharpened by pride. He didn't hide it. There was a tremendous rivalry between me and Ossie. It wasn't just football, it was personal, and he wasn't alone. Jack Charlton followed him down tunnels, grabbed his shirt when the ref looked away, kneed him, head-butted him. In the 1970 FA Cup final replay, Charlton's boot found Osgood's ribs more than once. The whole nation saw it. No cards, no apologies. Billy Bremner brought the engine. He didn't tackle. He collided. And when Osgood stayed on his feet, you could see it in Bremner's eyes. He hated that elegance couldn't be silenced. And then there was Mick Jones. Hard, quiet, unshaken. It was Jones who bulldozed Bonetti early in the final, setting off the fire that turned Wembley into a war zone. From that moment on, every Leeds man had one task: shut down Osgood. Because he wasn't like them. He wasn't Northern Steel. He was Southern pride, hair slicked, shirt clean, touch velvet, everything they wanted to destroy. But they failed. He bled in that final. But he also scored. The equalizer. The moment. The crown. He left Wembley bruised and undefeated. And to this day, you cannot speak about Leeds United without remembering the man they tried to erase and couldn't. It wasn't a final. It wasn't a grudge match. It was supposed to be routine. Chelsea away to Brighton. January 1973. But nothing was routine when Osgood stepped on grass. The tackles came early, the crowd was loud, and then it snapped. George Lay went in late. Osgood turned, said something, and in front of everyone Lay threw a punch. It connected. Osgood dropped. The ref reached for red. The fans reached for blood. The match fell apart. The press called it a day of shame. Fighting in the stands, chaos on the pitch, a tie lost in fury. Osgood didn't cry, he didn't chase. He stood up, walked off, and gave the line the cameras still remember. It didn't hurt all that much. We're all in this game together. But that was the mask, because inside, he never forgot. He didn't swing first, but he always remembered who did. And Lay earned his place on that quiet list of names Osgood never spoke again. It wasn't just the punch, it was the insult, the lack of respect, the way the game tried to humiliate the man who made it beautiful. And still, he walked away with more class than anyone who tried to drop him. There was no punch, no red card, but the grudge was real. Peter Osgood never liked him, never said it, but you could feel it. Frank McClintock wasn't wild like the Leeds men. He didn't come flying in, he came slow, heavy, sure of himself. He wasn't dirty, he was disciplined. And that's what made it worse. Osgood danced through chaos. He wanted fights, he wanted fury, but McClintock didn't give him that. He gave him cold silence, shoves that didn't look like fouls, grabs that the ref never saw, and a stare that said, "You don't belong here." Every match between Arsenal and Chelsea carried it. That tension, that stubbornness. Two men who refused to step aside, two players who hated to lose space or respect. McClintock never flinched, never cracked. He made sure Osgood earned every flick, every goal, every breath. And Ossie hated that. He couldn't crack him, couldn't rattle him, and he never forgot it. It was the kind of rivalry that left no bruises, only bitterness, no handshake, no peace, just memory. Frank McClintock never swung at Peter Osgood, but he still left a mark. He didn't lose his place. He was removed. Dave Sexton wasn't a brute. He didn't tackle, he didn't shout, he just believed the crown didn't matter anymore. Peter Osgood, still adored by fans, still filling grounds, was told to sit. No explanation, no warning, no way back. There were whispers that Sexton didn't like the nightlife, didn't like the hair, didn't like the way Osgood made the bridge feel like his own. They never came to blows, but make no mistake, there was bad blood. Osgood never spoke against him publicly, but when they stopped speaking at all, that was enough. He was benched, then frozen out, then sold. March 1974, Southampton. The king didn't leave, he was thrown out of the palace, and the fans knew it. They came to protest, they sang his name outside the ground. But the decision was already made. Years later, Osgood would say it quietly. Well, it was horrendous, to be honest. Not dramatic, not bitter, just broken. The club moved on. The boardroom stayed quiet. But the fans never forgave it, and Osgood never healed from it. Because being kicked by a rival is one thing. Being betrayed by your own, that stays forever. They love to talk about the tackles, the blood, the war, but they never show you the goals. Not the ones that mattered, not the ones that defined him, not the ones that came after the bruises. Peter Osgood didn't score by luck. He scored like he was painting, like every touch had a memory behind it. They show the big ones, Wembley 70 when he slid through the smoke and headed Chelsea back into history. Athens 71, the volley in the Cup Winners' Cup final that left the keeper frozen. But the rest, they've been erased. No replays, no documentaries, no tribute packages. Because elegance never makes the highlight reel when it comes from the wrong kind of man. Too proud, too glamorous, too defiant to be tamed. And yet, week after week, in mud-soaked grounds and hostile stadiums, he created magic. He scored under pressure, with stitches still fresh, with the crowd still spitting his name, but they forget those, because they weren't clean, they weren't marketable, they weren't safe. Peter Osgood didn't live for the replay. He lived for the silence after the net rippled, the moment the crowd shut up, and knew. He didn't wear the crown in peace. He wore it while limping, while spitting blood, while getting up, again and again. Peter Osgood wasn't protected. He was punished for playing too well, for looking too proud, for refusing to bow to the rules of their world. He wasn't built for control, he was built for chaos, but he made it beautiful. And they hated him for it. Every time he scored, they came harder. Every time he smiled, they kicked deeper. But he never stopped. Not when they broke his leg, not when they benched him in silence, not when they sold him while the fans begged them not to. He kept going, with knees taped, with shoulders sore, with elegance they couldn't kill. They'll tell you he was a showman, a flair player, a rebel, but they forget the most important part. He endured. Every headline ignored the bruises, every tribute skips the names he never forgave, but the fans know, because they watched him bleed, and still stand up, and still deliver. That's not style. That's defiance. That's what made him more than a player. That's what made him the Osgood King. The real fans never forgot. We didn't forget the bruises. We didn't forget the header at Wembley. We didn't forget the King with bloody knees. Not the media version, not the friendly edit. We remember the real one. The Osgood King. Subscribe if you were one of the fans who never forgot Peter Osgood.